Right. I call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 4th. As you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, for which it stands. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. As we begin tonight's meeting, I ask those in the audience to please silence your cell phones. Cell phone notifications can be distracting to others in the audience and to us, the board, as we conduct our business. Thank you. We'll start the meeting with the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Any discussion? All right, Ms. Woods, would you? Oh.
It's Ms. Drake tonight, Mr.
All right, okay. Ms. Drake, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Yes. Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Turbacca?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Motion carries. So Sue Cass is asked to participate in tonight's meeting electronically, as she is out of town. Do I have a motion to approve Ms. Cass's electronic participation?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Turbacca?
Yes,
6 in favor.
motion carries. We do not have our student representatives tonight. I think one of them couldn't, at least one, if not both, could not make it tonight. So we are going to move forward to the April Seniors of the Month.
Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Bragan, it is my pleasure to present to you Auburn High School's April Senior of the Month. This month, we'd like to recognize Morgan Elaine Mundy. Morgan is here this evening with her family. I'd like to invite both of them to come up and join me, please. I'm going to read a brief statement from one of our staff members. I'm excited to nominate Morgan Mundy as an Auburn High School Student of the Month. She is an overall role model for the school and genuinely enthusiastic and interested in learning. Morgan's work ethic shows in my class, as well as her participation in sports, clubs, and other extracurricular activities here at Auburn High School. She is hardworking, honest, and compassionate, and it shows in her willingness to easily work with any classmate and to help American Sign Language students that are not her classmates, but in their first or second year of American Sign Language. I view what a wonderful quality for a lifelong learner and an involved citizen in any future community in which she lands. Morgan is a joy to have in class, and I wish her well for graduation and her future opportunities. Congratulations, Morgan.
Good evening, school board members. Dr. Bragan. It is my honor to present to you Connor Rutherford as the April Senior of the Month for Blacksburg High School. At this time, I'd like to invite Connor, along with his family, to join me up here. Here's what a few BHS staff members had to say about Connor. Connor Rutherford is an incredibly talented student athlete who never forgets that he is a student first. His dedication to running and learning are equally impressive. At the same time, he is also more than titles and grades. Connor is a respectful, polite, and caring individual. He is dedicated to the investment in his perseverance, and he is incredibly humble, smart, inquisitive, and passionately driven to succeed. Connor has been an active member of the cross-country and track teams since he moved to Blacksburg during his freshman year, and he was most recently named the Virginia Cross Country Gatorade Athlete of the Year, and he will continue his academic and athletic career on scholarship at the University of Georgia. Congratulations, Connor.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Bragan. It's my pleasure to introduce the April Senior of the Month for Christiansburg High School, Marshall Farmer. At this time, we would like to ask Marshall and his family to please come forward. When asking some of his teachers to describe Marshall, they said, Marshall is a student who has embedded himself in the CHS Career and Technical Education program. He is a bright spot in the day and is one of the most polite gentlemen I've had the opportunity to work with. He comes in with a positive attitude and is ready to work each day. Marshall understands how hard it is to work, and he's also become an asset to the Christiansburg High School's Culinary Arts program while completing all 4 levels of coursework and earning his ServSafe Food Protection Manager's certification from the National Restaurant Association. Marshall's positive energy, dependability, humor, and work ethic will be missed once he graduates. After graduation from CHS, Marshall plans to attend NRCC with the ACE program and pursue a career as an HVAC technician. Once again, Marshall Farmer.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Bragan. It's my honor to be here this evening to recognize the April Senior of the Month for Eastern Montgomery High School, Allison Bauer. Allison is here with her family, and I ask them to come forward at this time. I will now share a quote from Emily Castle, Allison's agriculture teacher, that highlights the characteristics that make Allison a great Senior of the Month. In our school community, Allison is well known as a kind and enthusiastic individual. As a student, Allison has displayed adaptability, excitement for learning, and an unwavering self-motivation to excel. She has a passion for agriculture and has taken numerous classes to explore that passion, including small engine repair, floriculture, welding, and veterinary science. Allison serves as the EMHS FFA chapter secretary and helps plan and implement FFA events, manage social media accounts, and recruit new members. She has a can-do attitude and helps to motivate others around her. In addition to her being our FFA secretary, Allison is a member of the Beta Club, Yovaso Club, FFA horse judging team, FFA livestock judging team, and Allison also participates in volleyball, basketball, and softball. Each team she is a part of can rest assured that Allison will show up to every practice and event with a smile on her face and contagious positivity. Furthermore, Allison is a pleasure to be around. She is a personable, kind, compassionate, and always eager to help those around her. She has a dedication to serving others and bettering her community, and we are lucky to have her at EMHS. Congratulations, Allison.
And Miss Mundy from Auburn High School. If you and your family could come back up. You just had trouble navigating the circle around. We'll get your picture taken real quick. Thank you for your patience.
All right. Thank you so much, principals, and congratulations to all of our seniors of the month. Next is the VHSL Athletic State Championships, and I see Mr. Husband coming up.
Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Bragan, thank you all for the opportunity to recognize our winter season VHSL Athletic State Champions. We have both individual and team state champions from Blacksburg High School and Christiansburg High School this evening. To get started with Blacksburg High School is Mr. Simpson.
Hello again, everybody. We're going to start with our track teams. And so I'm going to invite up here in a minute Mr. Howard, who you met in a few months ago when we recognized both boys and girls cross-country state championships. So now for the winter season, we would like to invite Coach Howard up again to talk about the success of the indoor track and field program. So he has team and individuals to represent tonight. So Coach Howard. And team. And unfortunately, his hair has grown back. He earned a nice haircut that maybe he'll tell you about.
Yeah, I recently learned it's not good to make bets with high schoolers. I had a nice little mohawk a couple of days ago, so yeah, that's gone now. Anyway, on behalf of the Blacksburg track team, I would like to thank the school board, the Blacksburg community, and especially the Blacksburg parents of our athletes for having us here tonight. Achieving this success would not be possible without the immense support we received from our Blacksburg families, including my own. I'm personally blessed to have the privilege of working with these athletes daily, and it's something I look forward to every single day. So we're here tonight to recognize the elite achievement these hardworking young people have put in. While indoor track is a winter sport, these athletes have had this season in mind for the entirety of summer and even last year. As you may remember from when we were here in the fall, our distance runners worked hard throughout the cross-country season. But on top of that, our sprinters, jumpers, and throwers could be seen on the track, on the hills, and in the weight room throughout the summer, working toward their goal of placing high at the state meet. After all the work that they've put in, here we are again, and the boys team have been crowned as the Class 4 state champs of indoor track. So congratulations, boys. So it is worth noting that at Blacksburg, we pride ourselves in being the best complete team in the state. So this is something that we talked about after we completed the state meet at the indoor meet, and we got together. And our boys could not have achieved what they did without the help of our girls. And our girls could not have achieved what they did without the help of our boys. We pride ourselves in being the best complete team in the entire state. So while the boys were state champs, and we are very, very proud of that, we are also equally proud of our girls for getting second runner-up in the state after being seeded as the 5th team going into it. So we are very proud of our girls for being the runners-up, and without each other, we could not have gotten to where we are. Yeah, thank you. We do also want to recognize our individual state champions who, as you know, indoor track has a lot of events. We have 16 different events that we compete in. Last year, our highest place for any of the events was 2nd place, and we have a lot more first place finishes this year. So we're very proud and thankful for that. So you guys can let me know if I forget anything. So I would like to first recognize Katya Kellenbeck. So Katya was the Class 4 state champ in the high jump. We were very proud of our high jumpers. It was probably the best meet we could have had. We went 1st, 2nd, and 5th in the high jump. And Katya won after getting 2nd last year. She won with a jump of 5.2. She was also all-state in the long jump and all-state on the 4x2 relay as well. So congratulations to Katya. We also have Senior of the Month, Connor Rutherford. Connor was state champ in the 1,600 meters, or most people refer to it as the mile. So Connor ran a time of 4:14 to win the state meet. That was not his fastest time of the season. He went on to run at the national meet. He placed 18th in the nation with a time of 4:10.53. So there is a reason he will be running on scholarship at Georgia. and he will be a dog. So he was our individual champion in the 1600, and he was third place in the 3200. It's also worth noting that because Connor was in the mile, a lot of people did not think that they could place highly, and a lot of people bowed out of the race because they were afraid to race him. So it was pretty entertaining to see that, and yeah, we're thankful for Connor. So congratulations, Connor. We also have with us the boys 4x800 meter relay champions, state champions. They were the fastest 4x8 in the entire state of Virginia across all classifications with a time of 7:52. That means that each runner is running under 2 minutes on average for a half mile, very quick. So 7:52, and they were in the fastest heat possible at the national meet in Boston when they went to compete. And that team was comprised of Jonas Roach, Zach Davis, Connor Rutherford, and Eli Sterling. So congratulations to those guys. We also had the girls 4x800 meter relay champions, and on paper going into it, they were seeded as the 8th team. And we went into it and we knew that we were going to turn some heads with our race because we knew the shape that we were in. And we knew that nobody expected the girls to win. And so the team of, I'm trying to remember the order, it was Mia Farley, Allie McDonald, Tess Dickens, and Reese Bradbury. They ran a time of 9:23 for the 4x800 meter, and they beat the second place team by 100 meters, which is significant. And so, yeah, we were very, very proud to beat the next team by 15 seconds. And they had an amazing showing, and I've never been so scared of angry runners in my life because they ran angry and they ran to win. So congratulations, ladies. Then we had the boys 4x400 meter relay. On that relay, we had Eric Metry. I'm trying to remember the order. This is not right. Eli Sterling, Zach Davis, and Ben Hager on that 4x4 relay. And we had set the school record once earlier in the season with a different team. And they went ahead and they set the school record again at the state meet when they won. And so we were ahead by 9.5 points going into the relay, which is the last event. And we said, all right, we just need to get one point and we can lock this thing up. Well, they got 10 points because they won the race. So congratulations to those state champs. Yeah, thank you guys for having us here. I think it's great that you honor the teams this way because it really takes a community. So we're thankful for MCPS. We're especially thankful for the Blacksburg community. And I'm just so blessed to be a part of this team. And so I want to thank you guys for doing what you do every day. So thank you so much.
Can we get the team to get together for a photo? Coach, thank you.
Next up for BHS, I'd like to invite Coach Chris Riley up to talk about an individual state championship in diving. So Coach Riley will come up. And swim and dive had a very successful season overall, but he's going to recognize our state champ diver.
Thank you for having me. This year, the boys swim and dive team took second place at state, and our girls took fifth place. We did have one state champion, and it was Theo Villanueva. Theo started diving for me in 7th grade because I also coached at Blacksburg Middle School diving, and he liked it so much he started diving year-round. And as a freshman, he took 4th place. As a sophomore, he took 2nd place. And this year, as a junior, he was state champion, and I'm so proud and humbled to have coached him. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Good evening once again, board members, Dr. Bragan. We're pleased to recognize the 2022-2023 winter season Christiansburg High School Blue Demon State Champions. And we are thankful to the board for allowing us to take a minute to honor these student athletes. In the winter of 2022-23, we had Class 3 state champions in 2 sports, one young lady and one gentleman. Our female athlete was not able to be with us this evening, but I'll still recognize her with some of her accomplishments. Maddie Moles won an individual state championship in pole vault during the indoor season with a vault of 12 feet 4 inches. It was her second consecutive Class 3 indoor pole vault state championship. Brady Hand. Brady, please come forward. He's with us this evening. And his family. Brady Hand won his first individual wrestling state championship with a victory in the 120 weight class. He won by a final score of 16-1 in his state finals match, a second period technical fall. Okay. During the season, Brady had a 39-4 overall record. He was the River Rumble champion, the Titan Tough Man champion, and the Heritage Invitational champion. He was ranked number 2 overall in his class in Virginia at the 120 weight class. Congratulations to these fine athletes that come from Blue Demon Nation. Thank you.
All right, we are going to take a 10-minute break for the board members to be able to go out and greet some of our athletes and our seniors of the month. We will position ourselves either at the front of the room or maybe in the back. Just find us if you feel comfortable coming by and saying hello so that we can congratulate you in person. Thank you. We'll be back in 10 minutes. All right. Our next agenda item is public address. We welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in this community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address, and then we have option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Drake will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after the 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. The clock continues through applause and disruption, so the more disruptions there are, the fewer speakers get to address the board. I'll call each speaker up by name in the order that they're signed up. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address the board. The board does not respond to speakers during public address, and the screen will show when the speakers have 30 seconds remaining and when time is up. Please state your name and the area of the county where you live in. Tonight we have at least 23 speakers signed up, so I would ask you all to please be cooperative in trying to keep this moving. The first speakers signed up are Glenn Chilcote and Edward Zielinski. So Glenn Chilcote, you are up.
Chair Chewbacca and members of the board. My name is Glenn Chilcote, and I live in Blacksburg. On April 4th, 1968, at 6:01 p.m., 55 years ago today, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. King was in Memphis to support black sanitation workers' efforts to gain better working conditions. I stand before you today asking that you vote to approve the resolution for collective bargaining. You know the facts. You have total control. Section 2.b.5 of the resolution states that the board retains all rights to undertake any actions reasonable and necessary to carry out the mission of the school board. It also states in section 6.b.8 that an agreement is enforceable and effective as a collective bargaining agreement when the school board approves it. We can't strike. That's illegal. No one is required to pay dues. That's illegal. Taxes will not increase because you can't levy taxes. We just want a voice, an outlet to communicate, collaborate, and compromise. I appreciate you all taking the time to discuss this important topic. I appreciate that you have used your meaningful seats to advocate for employees, truly. All we are asking is that you grant the hardworking men and women a seat to discuss items that would make MCPS even better. The employee perspective is vital. I hope you recognize this and that this meaningful outlet, which you completely control, can only improve MCPS. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chilcote. Next up is Edward Zielinski, and after Mr. Zielinski is Katie Seidemann.
Good evening. My name is Edward Zielinski. I live in Christiansburg. I'm just kind of not talking to any of the collective bargaining or anything. It's some concern we've had in the family. So my wife works at Falling Branch Elementary, and there's been a lot of behavioral issues that have happened throughout her whole year working there. And a lot of the stuff comes back is, well, we can't do anything. We just call the parent, we pull the child aside, and then they go back to the classroom. In the matter of this year, both my children's year of school, they've seen students throw chairs at teachers, cuss, swear, throw desks, threaten bodily harm to their other students. And all we hear is there's nothing that can be done. So we kind of had an idea. We talked at the house, and one of the options could potentially be we have virtual learning in our in the U.S. now, and even in our county. Instead of pulling these kids aside and having them allowing to go back and disrupt the class. Why can't we put them in some sort of virtual learning, either for a little short time, improve their behavior, come back, but when they're just told, hey, that's not appropriate, there's no real disciplinary action that happens, it just doesn't get better. My wife's come home, she shared a lot of stuff about students coming to her saying, thank you for keeping me safe, thank you for making sure the bullies don't pick on me. And you can't be there and watch every kid. But certainly there are problems in there where it's just nonstop, almost borderline rioting in the classroom with some students. I mean, nobody's kid's perfect, I get that. But I think there's something should be done, or at least discussed about that as being a disciplinary action. Is if you cannot participate in the classroom and focus and be in a safe learning environment, then you need to be put into some sort of virtual learning where you can improve your behavior. It's very tough. I get it, to come up with these rules and other stuff. It's just an idea we had. My wife pressed me to come up here and please speak, and I did because I support her and I support the school district. I love my kids go to Falling Branch. They love it there, except when a kid throws a chair in the classroom or whispers in their ear, I'm going to bring a knife to school and cut you. And my kid comes home, and then I have to talk to him about that. And it's pretty serious. So maybe something can be addressed in the future, but I couldn't just sit by and not say anything. Thank you for your time. You have a wonderful day.
Folks, please, we've asked for no applause. Don't make me ask again and again and again. All right, next is Katie Seidemann, and after that, Nick Shepard.
Good evening. My name is Katie Seidemann and I live in Christiansburg. I'm also music teacher at AHS, AMS, and EMHS. I'm here tonight to continue to voice my support for the right of MCPS employees to collectively bargain their contracts. Several of you have stated on multiple occasions that you are supportive of our teachers, ESPs, and other employee groups, that you have always been supportive of our teachers, ESPs, and other employee groups. Unfortunately, these declarations are not often translated into actual effective policies that improve the working conditions and morale of our employees. Simply saying that you support MCPS employees does nothing to help me and nothing to help them. Your actions are what show us that you really care about and support your employees. Voting to pass the proposed collective bargaining resolution is a clear and meaningful action that you can take to show us that you support us in our daily work and that you want us to stay with MCPS. By voting to pass this resolution, you are not giving up anything. In fact, you are gaining the opportunity to have meaningful and cooperative discourse with the people who keep our schools running. You are gaining the opportunity to build stronger relationships with your employees and deepen the trust between those of you up here and those of us down here. My colleagues and I deserve the right to have a seat at the table where decisions are being made about our jobs, about our working conditions, about the working conditions of our coworkers, and about the learning conditions of our students. The best solutions are developed when people work collaboratively. Collective bargaining affords us that collaborative opportunity to create better working conditions for all MCPS employees and, as a result, create better learning conditions for our students. Now is the time to approve collective bargaining for all MCPS employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Seidemann. Next, we have Nick Shepard, and after that, Waylon Helms.
Good evening, board. I'm Nick Shepard. I'm a student at Auburn High School. I'm here today to talk about this book. 3 weeks ago, my class and I were given this book to read by our English teacher. Now I'm going to read you a few pieces from this book, but before I do, I'm going to let you know that this book was read aloud by our teacher in a classroom full of my peers. On page 13, it says, quote, Margot's best friend started a rumor that the real reason he had blood in his urine was due to chronic masturbation. On page 14, it says, quote, Bro, I saw your mom kiss you on the cheek this morning, and forgive me, but I swear to God I was like, man, I wish I was Q, and also, I wish my cheeks had penises. On page 37, it says, quote, My lovely boyfriend of lo these many months is fucking my best friend. On page 41, it says, quote, I found myself feeling slightly bad for Jason. It wasn't his fault he had a micro penis. On page 276, it says, Ben starts, I spy with my little eye something I really like. Oh no, Radar says. Is it the taste of balls? No. Is it the taste of penises? I guess. No, dumbass, Ben says. Now, I'm not sure how everyone on this board feels about this book, but this book was originally chosen by our teacher. When we asked our teacher why these disgusting comments were in the book, the excuse was that the book was coming from the perspective of high school students and that my peers speak this way as well. This is not the case. This is something I wouldn't feel comfortable reading in front of my own parents, let alone my teacher reading it to an entire class of students. These books do not belong in our schools, and my opinion on the book, like many others in this room, is the majority opinion. This is ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shepard. Next, we have Waylon Helms.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Waylon Helms. I'm a student at Auburn High School, and I'm here today in support of Nick Shepard's message in that sexual and pornographic books do not belong in our schools. We're the majority opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helms. Next up is Kobe Dalton, and after that is Shane Riggins.
Good evening, board members. I'm Kobe Dalton. I'm a student at Auburn High School, and I'm here today in support of Nick Shepard and that sexual and pornographic books do not belong in our schools. We are the majority opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Next up is Shane Riggins, and after that, Carter St. Clair.
Good evening. I'm Shane Riggins. I'm a student at Auburn High School, and I'm here today in support of Nick Shepard and that sexual and pornographic books do not belong in our schools. We are the majority opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riggins. Next up is Carter St. Clair, and after that, Courtney Harris.
Good evening. I'm Carter St. Clair. I'm a student at Auburn High School, and I'm here today in support of Nicholas Shepard and that sexual and pornographic books do not belong in our schools. We are the majority opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. St. Clair. Next up is Courtney Harris, and after that, Stevie Bowman. Is Courtney Harris here? I don't see anyone coming up. So next we have Stevie Bowman, and after that, we have Carola Haas.
Good evening. My name is Stevie Bowman. I'm the chapter chair of Moms for Liberty, and I live in Reiner. I was at the work session 2 weeks ago where a collective bargaining agreement was discussed. At that meeting, it was very obvious that there are still a lot of unanswered questions as to how this will work in our county. I was bothered by the comment made by Ms. Franklin that the board was overthinking this agreement. I don't believe this board should vote on any agreement until every single one of you understands what you are voting for. I would have to disagree with Ms. Franklin and argue that more discussion needs to occur before a vote. You need to have certain questions answered before a vote, such as, how is this going to affect our county? How much money is this going to cost the taxpayers? Will this benefit our students? Will it be a hardship for some teachers to pay dues? As a former teacher myself, I don't think any teacher should ever have to pay a penny for a seat at the table. You should also consider that laws at the state level are ever changing. While the teachers union cannot strike in the state of Virginia right now, this could change in the future. This would be detrimental to our children. We have a lot of young people here tonight, a lot of students. I want you to take a look at them tonight. Really look at them before you vote on a collective bargaining agreement. Is a teachers union really what is best for our children? No, it's not. A teachers union represents the teachers, not our children. It is your job, the board, to make decisions regarding our children. When it comes time to vote, put our children first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Let's see, next is Corolla Haas, and after Corolla Haas is Mike Scari. I hope I'm saying that right.
Thank you. My name is Carola Haas. I live in Reiner, Virginia. At the March 21st meeting, during the discussion of collective bargaining, Mr. Chewbacca and Ms. Franklin suggested the importance of including curriculum and used the problematic implementation of Study Sync and Benchmark as examples. Ms. Parton said she didn't think there had been any problem with the process used and called a central office administrator up to explain the timeline. After all that has happened, I was shocked that an administrator would stand up here and continue to attempt to mislead the board. And I was saddened to see that she was successful when Ms. Barton said, "It sounds to me like, again, there was plenty of time given." Since some members of the board apparently have not had time to read the report on ELA curriculum adoption and implementation that was presented to the board last month, I would like to clarify a few points and read some excerpts here. I urge you to read the report and to stop tolerating misrepresentation and disrespect for teachers. First, to clarify, two concerns about timeline may have been conflated: adoption and implementation. Unfortunately, with Study Sync, there were major issues with both, which go far beyond a problem with timeline, but the timeline issues contributed substantially to the problems. I provide excerpts from pages 7 to 15. The administration authored a textbook adoption process document outlining 4 steps. None of the steps were completed according to the timeline projected by the division to ensure it would be prepared to implement Study Sync at the start of the new school year. The earliest date the administration said it could get teachers together for the presentation and vote was April 29th, although the ELA curriculum administrator assured the board that even if teachers could not attend the vendors' demonstrations, they all would receive a temporary login and would be able to continue to explore and kind of look at the proposed curriculum. At the first reading at your May 17th meeting, the board was told the vendors would not provide access until after the purchase order had been processed. Teachers would not have account access to start perusing until sometime in the summer. So that's the adoption issues. Implementation. On July 22nd, the ELA curriculum administrator wrote ELA teachers to share preliminary information on the implementation of Study Sync, with the first training scheduled for August 11th, 6 days before the start of the new school year. On August 10th, just 1 day before training with McGraw-Hill sales representatives and 7 days before the start of the school, the ELA curriculum administrator emailed ELA teachers, "We are live." Not only were teachers having access issues, so was the ELA curriculum administrator herself. On August 16th, she emailed the supervisor of instructional technology, "I still don't have access through Clever for Study Sync. How do I get in?" The ELA curriculum administrator still had not started to draft a division-wide implementation plan. On August 28th, after watching McGraw-Hill webinars for administrators, she emailed Study Sync to request documents referenced to the webinars, saying, "I would love to have that for helping me shape the 3-year implementation plan I am now drafting up." The teachers did not have a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haas. Next is Mike Scari, I think, and then after that, Elisha Vaught. And as Mr. Scari is coming up, I'd also like to remind people in the audience, please don't laugh, make comments, and other distracting noises when speakers are talking. Please let them have their 3 minutes. Thank you.
Mike Scari, Christiansburg, Virginia. Make any joke you want, I've heard it all. So I'm a parent of 2 kids in the Christiansburg Strand, and I'm here to talk about a couple facts first. Number one, every single teacher that have touched my kids' lives has gone over and above and been a positive force for them. Number two, Montgomery County, as you probably know, was recently ranked number 10 in the state for academics, and I think that's not a small thing. And I think that the biggest reason for that is our teachers. In fact, I've been standing in the back tonight, and I've seen teachers here working, doing some schoolwork, grading papers, things like that. I think clearly the teachers want collective bargaining, and I think we ought to give it to them, and I think they deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scary. Let's see, next up is Alicia Vaught, and then after that is Kim Bowman.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Alicia Vaught. I would just like to start off tonight saying, yes, we do love our teachers. We love them a lot. But school is not about our teachers. It's about our students. We've put our students last for a long time now, as is evidenced by their scores from their reading and math. The teachers' unions, that's a different story. The teachers' unions, number one, the employees are not supposed to have more say and more control than the employer. That's just the way it works. Number two, the teachers' unions. These are the same teachers' unions that advocated to keep our schools closed during the pandemic. They're the same unions that convinced our teachers that our kids were, quote, super spreaders. They're also the same ones that colluded with the Biden administration to label the concerned parents that spoke up at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. Why would we want to put the teachers' unions in charge of our kids like that when they absolutely hate the parents? This is nothing bad to say about teachers. They're completely separate than the teachers' union that wants to take control of our kids. And that's what we need to keep in perspective here, because we cannot have the people that hate the parents come in and be in charge of our kids in our school, because the parents' rights goes out the window when they come in. I would ask the people that are not seeking re-election, the three of you that are not seeking, to please abstain from voting on this, because this is going to create something that you're not going to be here to clean up. If this all goes south, you guys are not going to be here to deal with the ramifications of that. So I would ask you, please refrain from voting. And the rest of you, I would ask you, please vote no on collective bargaining. Now, I know some of you are in favor of unions. Unions are completely separate and different than a teacher's union. Unions don't belong in our schools. We've got to put our kids first. We have to. Look at the result of not putting them first. They're falling behind. There are cases of anxiety and the mental health issues in our kids. None of that's being addressed. The kids are being put last, you know? We're not thinking about all of the things that we can do to help our kids. We're only putting the teachers' unions and what they want in the forefront. That's what this whole fight's been about for the last 2 years. I haven't heard much in the way of how are we going to address the learning loss and the deficit of our kids. We've got to put academics first and ideology last. So please keep that in mind and vote no for collective bargaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vaught. Next up, we have Kim Bowman, and then after that, we have Darlinda McChain.
Hi, my name is Kim Bowman, and I'm from Christiansburg. We actually, collectively, some of the citizens had sent a letter into the paper after Ms. Cass said that the school board would answer questions, and those questions were never answered. They were sent again this week, and we never got any answers to another individual. And I would just plead with you to have some kind of forum where those questions can be answered before you make a decision that you're likely going to regret. What I would like to do is just to pray for you guys, because I know you have a tough decision to make. And I know that, If it was me, I would be weighing that very heavily on both sides. I understand the teachers, and we all want what's best for our teachers. And I think that we've looked at the facts that, the teachers here are doing much better than most of the state. But we also have to consider the children and their suffering. I just looked at the new statistics on the learning loss, and it is devastating. 40% learning loss is, that's hard to overcome in a 4-year period. So right now, I'd just like to pray for wisdom. I'm going to lift you up to the Lord who created the heaven and the earth. And Lord, I just ask that you would impart your wisdom on these people that you've selected for this time in our community, that you would give them ample time to investigate and to find out these questions and to come back to our community to give them peace in this decision. Lord, I pray that you would be with them as they make this tough decision. And I pray that you would just impart your wisdom and your love for the children into each of them, and that they would truly look and see if what they are doing is actually what's good for these children. We just thank you, Lord, that you're here in this room tonight, and we thank you for the opportunity to serve you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Next up is Darlinda McChain, and then after that, we have Ginny Perfader.
My name is Darlinda McChain, and I live in Christiansburg. And I was going to lift you folks up too with this important decision in front of you. And I want to say, I want to pray. I come before you boldly, Father God, in the name of Jesus, because you said I could. I came here to put you in remembrance of your word because you said we should. And I thank you that your word never returns void. And I'm willing to do this tonight because of 1 Corinthians 1:27. If you don't know what that says, you can look it up later. Break forth into joy, O my soul. Break forth into joy, O my soul. In the presence of the Lord there is joy forevermore. Break forth into joy, O my soul. Whosoever shall confess that Jesus is the Son of God, God dwelleth in him, and he in God. We have known and believed the love that God hath to us. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McChain. Next up, we have Ginny Perfader, and then after that, Teresa Brown.
Hello, my name is Ginny Perfader, and I live in Blacksburg. As you all will remember from the last meeting that we had here, I was a teacher and I left. And I want to read this scripture to you because I think it explains very clearly why I left my position. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And I want to stop there for a second. I want to tell you, this is when Moses had just delivered the Israelites through the Red Sea, okay? They had been in bondage and in slavery, and they'd seen some things. They'd been through a lot, okay? He's about to die, and this is his words to the Israelites right before he dies. That means this is important. This is something he wants them to understand and know. So I'm going to read this again. It says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your strength. That's first. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your heart. Impress them on your children. That's the second thing he said. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, number one. And number two, impress them upon your children. And no, I'm not a part of the VEA, and no, I'm not a part of this crazy ideology that's running rampant across our schools. But my voice matters too. And we have lots of Christian teachers in this county and across this nation who are being silenced every day. They're not allowed to speak about God at all. The most broken child comes to me from the worst situations possible, and anybody can say anything to them at all except about the love of Jesus. And I don't know about you, but like these people, I've been through some things, and God delivered me. God set me free. And when you've been set free of something from the Lord, you want others to feel that freedom. And that's why I'm here today, because I want these children to be free and to hear the word of God. Not only this crazy ideology that's running rampant across our nation, teaching indoctrination of demons to our children is what you're doing and what people are doing, okay? And we can't have this anymore, because this is the rest of the scripture. Impress them upon your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, when you get up. Tie them as symbols around your hands. Bind them on your foreheads. Write them on your door frames and on your houses and on your gates. Everywhere you go, you should see the scripture. Everywhere you go, this is what we live by. When the Lord your God brings you to a land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you a land with large flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kind of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant. Then when you eat and are satisfied, be careful that you do not forget the Lord, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. We cannot forget him, because that's what has made this country wonderful.
Thank you, Ms. Profader. Next up is Teresa Brown, and after that, Kelly Brennan.
Mr. Chewbacca, we've reached 30 minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Hang on just a second. So, Board, Ms. Drake has indicated that we've reached the 30 minutes, and does anybody wish to make a motion to extend public address by an additional 30 minutes?
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Ms. Drake, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass? Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. All right, thanks. We'll continue the public address. So Teresa Brown is next, and then after that, Kelly Brennan.
Hi, my name is Teresa Brown, and I'm from Christiansburg. My daughter is a student at Christiansburg High School, and listening to everything that's went on, I feel shame on me for not stepping up and coming in sooner and start being a voice for my child even quicker. As I stop and I look at what the Code of Conduct says and how all of that goes forward, and I'm listening to what everyone is saying about, be for our students, be for our students, be for our students. I'm also hearing my child come to me and say, Mom, the only person I trust is a teacher. The only place I feel safe is going to this teacher or that teacher. And I have a problem with that, because my child has came to me at the very beginning of the year being bullied, being harassed. We went before the 9th grade principal, and while we were in there talking to her about doing a no contact order against 3 other students, my daughter gets a text, to which, by the way, my daughter is biracial, and it's called a monkey ass. As in, and one person says, well, isn't that racial? And the kid says, I don't care. Later on, and the principal was there, the principal saw it, the 9th grade principal. Then later on, being called a faggot. How dare them? Because the last time I checked in the Code of Conduct that my child signed and that I signed, and that I feel confident that every student in that school was to have signed, every teacher has read, and then I would hope each and every one of you. My child has continued to be harassed. She has went to the principal. She has done her part. I have tried to teach her to stand up above and beyond what a bully is doing and to use her voice, because once she leaves home, Mama can't always make it right, and we have an obligation to teach these children. The only safe haven that my daughter has is with a teacher. My daughter even went to the principal not too long ago and said, he asked how she was. She said, I don't feel safe. And his response was, well, good. I don't think he meant it in a smart aleck way, but then proceeded to ask why. And she said, I don't feel safe here. There's nowhere to go. I keep getting bullied and harassed, food thrown at me, drinks thrown at me. She goes and tells the teacher, ninth grade principal tells her, you're just trying to get out of class. My student is an A student. My child is an A student. It saddens me that those in the school with a glorified title above teacher has done nothing but pass the buck. And every person that I have reached out to, I've had to continue to reach out to them, with the exception of one. With the exception of one, and it's wrong. It's wrong to allow this harassment to go since the beginning of the year. And then for the school system to fail our teachers and anyone else who is utilizing the materials that they have there.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Your time is up. I'm sorry.
It's wrong.
Next up is Kelly Brennan, and after that, Matthew Fentress.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Brennan, and I live in Reiner. I'm here in support of the collective bargaining resolution before you. I'm also here to speak to you about the citizens report delivered to you 1 month ago. Once again tonight, you've heard all the good reasons for supporting collective bargaining at MCPS. You know the details of this resolution, and you know they allay the typical concerns regarding unions and collective bargaining. And finally, you retain full authority in the management and operations of this school system. It is a sound resolution and a great place to start. Had only this agreement been in place a year ago, with the topic of curriculum having been specified in the resolution, there may well have been no cause for a citizen inquiry into the study sync situation. You have already heard tonight about the continuing mischaracterization of teachers' access to the study sync platform and the continuing characterization of teachers, by extension, as being derelict and whiny. This is inaccurate and must stop. Read the report, which through FOIA public records reveals a different story. The crux of the problem began on August 11th, 6 days before the start of classes, when teachers were told they were to teach 85% to fidelity on a digital platform they only that day had been trained on, and told further that they could not use any novels or supplemental materials not found in StudySync. This was a radical departure from past textbook adoptions and dismissed teachers' experience, knowledge, and familiarity with their students. As distasteful and difficult as this was for teachers, with subsequent distressing impacts on students, a more concerning disdain among certain administrators for vested teacher discretion is revealed in this report. Certain administrators, without your consent or consultation, attempted to rewrite board policy in order to codify their disdain for, as they put it, teacher autonomy. I implore each and every one of you to read, digest, assimilate, and respond to this report. There is a lot there. It will take some time, but it must be read in its entirety in order for the scope of the problem to be grasped. Please support collective bargaining and read the StudySync report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Next up is Matthew Fentress, and after Mr. Fentress is Joanne Price.
Good evening, Dr. Bragan and school board. My name is Matthew Fentress. I reside in Christiansburg, Virginia. On April 4th, 55 years ago today, American civil rights leader and union advocate Martin Luther King was assassinated, murdered, for speaking up for working conditions for Black Memphis sanitation workers. Isn't it fitting that we meet here tonight, asking for the right to collective bargain? As a teacher, looking up the antonyms for the words collective and bargaining, you will come across divide and begging. Therefore, the question is clear. Do you want staff to be divided and begging, or collectively working together for what is best for our kids? Give creed to Dr. King's dream and please support collective bargaining. Another thought, our political system, some would say our country, has been hijacked by those in positions of power, and many of us continue to give the hijackers more power. Our leaders have been locked in perpetual warfare, never truly accomplishing anything, and often the casualties are our children. Americans are getting angry at the system, getting angry at each other, and our country continues to be more and more angry and divided. There are too many of us wanting either the Republican or Democratic team, sports team, to win, as democracy continues to lose. There are some that see red states and blue states, while students and educators every morning and tonight give pledge allegiance to the optimistic idea of the United States. Our children's behavior is often a mere reflection of the adults' behavior. When we ask how Americans' children in the public schools are doing, isn't the real question we should ask ourselves, are the adults willing to look at things from the perspective of a child? The children in our classrooms often don't care about their classmates' political affiliation, race, or gender. They just want snacks and someone to play with during recess. A couple weeks ago, someone was upset, spoke, and misinterpreted page 22 of the book Flamer, when the middle school age boys were cooking hot dogs at a campout. If you read the book, the whole book, you get to see Aiden, like many of our youth, struggle with being bullied, having trouble navigating adolescent friendships, and dealing with his own suicidal thoughts. So do we continue to judge a book by its cover, or do we help the Aidens of the world? Should the desire to ban a book supersede the liberties of others to read the same book? Last week, an all too often school mass shooting took the lives of 3 young children and 3 school staff in Tennessee. When will we as a society embrace keeping our children safe with the same tenacity as some have for banning books? Thank you. Please support collective bargaining.
Thank you, Mr. Fentress. Next up is Joanne Price, and after that, Angela Akers.
Good evening, School Board, Dr. Bragan. There are a lot of problems. You've heard a lot of them tonight, but there is only one solution. Every day they pass me by, I can see it in their eyes. Empty people filled with care, headed who knows where. At the end of transgenderism, then what? Oh, they go through private pain, living fear to fear, afraid to lose benefits. Oh, not have enough pay. So a union is the answer, they say. Oh, a seat at the table. Laughter hides their silent cries. Only Jesus hears. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams, there's the open door. People need the Lord. When will we realize that people need the Lord? We are called to take his light to a world where wrong seems right. What could be too great a cost for sharing life with one who's lost? Though his love our hearts can feel, all the grief they bear, they must hear the words of life. Only we can share. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams, he is the only open door. When will we realize that we must give our lives for people need the Lord? He is here for anyone who feels the tug of his spirit on your heart. Invite him to come in.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Next up is Angela Akers, and after that we have Chris Waltz.
Angela Akers, Christiansburg. I believe it's not a matter of if, but when a school choice bill comes to pass for all parents, regardless of income. So we need to make sure our schools are safe and teach what schools are intended to teach, not anything else, not anything more. Because it's the parent's job to raise the child in the way they need to grow up, what they believe is right and true, not the government. I'm asking each of you, every one of you, to vote no on collective bargaining to unionize our schools here in Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Agers. Next up is Chris Waltz, and after that, Anna Vigian.
Chris Waltz, Christiansburg. I'm here about the collective bargaining. I don't have any kids in school, mine are all grown. But it's fairly obvious that these teachers would like a union. And what the union is going to give them is some support and some protection. Because, you know, some of the parents these days are getting pretty outrageous from what I've seen. And they
Maybe get closer to the mic, that might help.
Okay.
Sorry.
They could use it. You know, it gives them some protection. And with some of the stuff, I listened to some of these things when I was in school. I mean, there are lots of books that are in there. You know, they want to ban books. I mean, all kind of books. You know, of Mice and Men, Grapes of Wrath. I mean, all these books that I've read, I've seen the movies, saw them as a kid. I don't know why they want to shelter their kids so much, because they're going to have to live in the real world someday. And as a veteran, a 10-year Navy veteran, I can tell you that I've heard some stuff from some of these high school kids out when their parents aren't around that would make a sailor blush. And that's a pretty hard thing to do. So yeah, I mean, I think you should give them that. They need a seat at the table. And some of the people that are so against the unions, the breadwinners in their families are in unions at places like Volvo, truck drivers, things like that. Why are they so against this? That'd be a question I would be asking. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Waltz. Next up is Anna Vigian, and after Anna, I have somebody signed up without a last name. It just says Johanna, so maybe Johanna Holmes?
Hi, my name is Anna Vijayan, and I live in District J. I'm here tonight to talk about the Study Stink report. My comment will focus on the administrative culture that was on display last year, a culture that is at odds with the ideals of honesty and respect that I think you all value. In fact, many actions taken by central office administrators, your employees, violate key principles contained in the parameters section of the strategic plan. Perimeter 4 states that we will model and foster a culture of integrity and respect. In fact, the Study Sync report documents multiple examples of central office administrators referring to parents and teachers with derision. In just one example out of many in which teachers were faulted for raising concerns, teachers had discovered that Study Sync was failing to award students partial credit for partially correct answers in a sixth grade assessment. When a teacher asked about awarding partial credit on two-part questions for which students got an answer partially correct, the administrator of ELA curriculum dictated, "We are not adjusting the scoring. It makes me really sad to think teachers would abuse this and change student scores in order to have better results." In fact, none of the teachers had suggested inflating students' scores unethically or dishonestly. The administrator's assertion was unfair and disrespectful. Parameter 6 states that we will practice and promote open, honest, and transparent communication with all stakeholders. In fact, the report documents several instances in which top central office administrators were not forthright with teachers or with you, the board. Top administrators misled the board on such issues as when teachers gained full access to Study Sync, how transparent administrators had been with teachers regarding the intention to require complete fidelity to the curriculum, and what exactly were the requirements coming down from the state with respect to curriculum adoption. It is notable that the interim superintendent had been told by the VDOE's English coordinator that novels can be used, but should not be the primary tool of instruction, even as this administrator was soon to tell the board that in order to be able to use novels, they must go through this approval process for primary instructional material, which was wrong. These are not just one-time lapses of judgment cherry-picked to paint a negative picture. These are examples of a culture that is pervasive and persistent. I have confidence that Dr. Bragan wishes to cultivate a culture of respect in which teachers and staff are not afraid to bring up issues of concern, and where central office administrators communicate with the board and with teachers in an honest, straightforward manner. Please read the complete report, take the concerns about MCPS culture seriously, and work with Dr. Bragan to make any changes needed for MCPS to live up to its ideal version of itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vijayan. Next up, we have Johanna Holmes, I believe. Is that right?
Hicks.
Okay. And, oh, I'm sorry.
Johanna Hicks.
Hicks. Okay, sorry. There wasn't a last name in the sign-up sheet, so I just went with what the email was.
Wow. Okay.
And after Ms. Hicks is Annie Chilcote.
Johanna Hicks, Christiansburg, Virginia. I have 4 children in the school system. Thank you to every single member that is sitting here tonight. Plain politics. Talk about making someone happy or someone unhappy. I'm glad I'm not in your shoes tonight. I do pray for your decision making though. Talk about school unions. Is this about the children or about politics? What is it really about? Where will the money be spent at? From my understanding, some of the school unions have been known for spending much of it in lobbying and campaigning activities. All teachers' unions spend money in campaigning donations, get out to vote drives, the endorsement to candidates, lobbying in state capitals, and other political activities. And the Bible says, let these children alone. Don't get between them and me. These children are the kingdom's pride and joy. Mark this, unless you accept God's kingdom in the simplicity of a child, you'll never get in. Think about our children tonight. Obviously, our teachers, we're grateful for having them. And I hope you make the right decision. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Next up, we have Annie Chilcote, and then after that, Betty Thomas.
Hi, my name is Annie Chilcote, and I live in Blacksburg. I'm just here to say that I think that it is shameful to suggest that a teachers' union is not what's best for children. It is also shameful to suggest that you all would not be doing what's best for students if you vote to pass a collective bargaining agreement. Teachers' union. Teachers. Pay attention to who is speaking to you and asking you to support collective bargaining, especially those who have been called to service to serve students in public education, which is why you are all on this board, to serve students of public education. Who is around students all day? I personally have upwards of 120 different students in and out of my classroom each day. It's a lot. I know all of their names, their needs, and most of the cars that their families drive. I have taught hundreds, if not thousands, of students between 3 strands in MCPS. And just because I am a member of the MCEA and support collective bargaining does not mean I don't want what's best for all of my students. You heard the second speaker talk about a volatile classroom. Who brings home that emotional baggage? Do you think that any staff that encounters something like that doesn't take that home with them each day? Do you think that we don't return home with that weighing heavily on our hearts to our own families, to our own children? And I'm married to a teacher, so it's ×2. Do you think we don't worry about our students when they go home, or when they're home over the summer, or when they grow up? There are even former students of mine in this room. They may disagree with me right now hearing me, but I'm still proud of them and their accomplishments, especially when I see their pictures posted on high school social media. So it is shameful to suggest that anyone involved in a collective bargaining agreement or a teachers union does not want what's best for students. We have been called to serve in public education. Now we are just asking for an additional voice for us, but mostly so we can continue to serve those students. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Chilcote. Next up is Betty Thomas, and then after that, Chris Thomas.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Betty Thomas, and I live in Christiansburg. I'm here tonight to talk about the so-called pornographic books that have been discussed in these last few meetings. Yes, in the book talked about today, there were some sex jokes. So what? As a young child, the things said in these books, they don't matter. I'm not going to be traumatized for life. I'm not going to be exposed to something horrific. It's just words on a page. I've read some of these books, specifically the one Flamer, and I loved it. They were funny, inclusive, and just good books. I don't care about these so-called pornographic things in the book because they don't matter. And just make sure, as a side note, make sure to vote yes for collective bargaining. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Next up is, thank you, Betty Thomas. I haven't figured that one out yet. Next up is Chris Thomas.
I will note that Betty wrote that sitting in her seat. Anyway. Hi, Chris Thomas, Christiansburg, Virginia. It bears repeating that the agreement before this board is not one that compels the payment of dues. It's not one that can increase taxes. It's not even one that can affect teacher salaries. Indeed, the proposed union has literally no vote and no statutory authority whatsoever. The phrase, a seat at the table, or a voice in the conversation, is one often used as metaphor in negotiations like this, but that is expressly, exclusively, and literally what is being proposed here. And it's all that's being proposed here. The degree to which this has become a partisan political issue in this county is shameful. I'm genuinely glad that many of my fellow citizens here have found God. There are some beautiful ideas in the Bible: love, kindness, tolerance for others. But two verses spring to mind tonight. Matthew 6, 5 through 6 says, "And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go to your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen." And related to it, Matthew 22, 21, "Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God's." Believe whatever you like, but this board and this school system are government bodies, and they're bound, like all governments in this country, by the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Whatever your beliefs might be, you've no right to use the megaphone and cudgel of government to enforce those beliefs on others. And indeed, on that topic, I'd like to speak next in defense of John Green's Paper Towns. First and foremost, let's clarify something. Paper Towns is not pornographic. Words have meanings, and the word pornographic has a legal one, generally not construed to include a coming-of-age story about love, innocence, childhood, and radical hope. Of course, pornographic does have a colloquial meaning as well, and while I certainly don't want to yuck anyone else's yum, it's an odd choice, but you do you. Paper Towns debuted at number 5 on the New York Times bestseller list. It's been made into a film, which I note is rated PG-13, but more importantly, it's an award-winning novel by a superstar young adult author. It's a powerful and important piece of literature, and one that has a well-deserved place in our English curriculum. So once again, I find myself in uncomfortable agreement with my friends from Moms for Liberty. We should put academics first and ideology last. We should stop entertaining this absurd notion that high school students can't handle a little off-color banter or the occasional swear. Many of the people here tonight seem to want their children to receive a religious education, and they should feel free to avail themselves of it elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And that brings to a close our public address. So next on the agenda is, I believe, consent items. So board, if no one wishes to move an item out of consent, we will consider those items approved. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of the bills as presented?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. All right, we're on to the business meeting portion of our meeting. First up is the report from the superintendent, Dr. Bragan.
Thank you, Board Chair Chewbacca. Few things. One I want to comment on.
we've discussed VCOM and our agreement with them to provide athletic training services over a few meetings. So at some point, I thought it'd be a good idea to talk to people from VCOM. And I actually reached out to their president and also that's not easy for say, the provost. She's acting in both capacities at this point, Dr. Rawlings. I just want to share with the board that we had a really great conversation as an institution that's been in this community for a long time. They want to do all they can to work and be good neighbors and good stewards of what they do here. And we started a dialogue that I hadn't had before with her. I don't know where it will end or if it will mean they'll be able to provide the services that we request. But it's definitely worth pursuing and worth moving forward right now. So I wanted to share with the board. It was a really productive conversation, and I was very impressed with Dr. Rawlings and her desire to be a good steward and community member for the doctor of osteopathic program that they have over there. So I wanted to share that with the board. And she had not had she had heard a few meetings or people got back to her on what was discussed, and she wanted to make sure that we were able to talk about it in person and maybe choose a different path. So I want to share that with you, and I'll update you as we get more information after the break. We do plan to meet again, so I'll share that with you as well. You're going to find on the agenda tonight, and Mr. Knott, I apologize, is going to talk about a school calendar for discussion that we talked about it at our agenda prep meeting. And this came from a discussion that I had at the Region 6 Superintendent's meeting. Again, I'm new to Virginia. I'm new to, how we do things in Montgomery County. I'm willing to learn and trying my best to do that. And at the meeting, I discovered that every other division that was represented there had a school calendar day of 180 instructional days. And our calendar has anywhere between 172 and 173. So I came back to our administrative team and asked them to take a look at that. Were there some things we could look at our calendar to increase the number of instructional days? I don't know how we got to 172 or 173 or what was the impetus behind that. I really don't have that knowledge, so I don't want to speak to that. But what I do know from my past history and from my time here, 173 instructional days is not enough for our needs of our kids, and especially after the pandemic and the learning losses that had occurred. So we're looking at trying to add more days. Mr. Knott will talk a little bit more about that. But one of the things that we wanted to make sure of, and there's two, that we don't take away from the support and work days as best as we can for our teachers to provide them that opportunity to do the planning and the training and the things that they do need to do. So we kind of got to figure all that out. And we also didn't want to change anything for the start of school in August because people and families have made plans already. That wouldn't be fair. So it's up for discussion. Mr. Knott's going to share with all of you, and I think it's something that we want to look at moving forward with and trying to get more instruction for our students because they really need it. And lastly, I just want to announce that kindergarten registration is open and it's online. So anyone that has a child that's going to be 5 by September 30th, which happens to be Miss Drake's birthday as well. I won't tell you what year that will be this year. But please do it, and please do it as soon as you can, because as we prepare and plan for our classes, we'd like to know those class sizes the sooner than better. Thank you, Board Chair.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Bragan. Next up on the agenda is collective bargaining resolution, and I think at our last meeting, a majority of the board agreed to move forward with action tonight. So with that in mind, does anyone wish to make a motion regarding collective bargaining resolution? Can you unmute your mic, please?
I will. Can you hear me?
Wait a minute, Sue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off, Penny? I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you.
Okay. I didn't have a microphone on, sorry. I move that we accept the collective bargaining resolution before us.
Second.
All right, Board, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
So there's just a couple of comments I'd like to make. So I can't say the word recruits, don't vote, shouldn't be allowed, because I am a proud union president, and I do support unions for employees to have a voice and protection. So folks asking me not to vote for this would be like folks saying anytime they talk about race, because you're a person of color, you shouldn't speak to it. and Shirley shouldn't vote to it. And what about women? And Miss Bond is a prime example of our CET program and how successful it is. And she shouldn't vote about anything related to CET. And all of our folks who are in IT, don't you dare, okay? So I will, because I have some knowledge of unions, does not say I should not. Folks are on this board because we all have different experiences and bring different things to the board, and this is one of mine. So I will be voting for this because that is my job.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Yeah, Sue, go ahead.
Mr. Tabaka, can I add on? Can I add on to that?
Yes, Ms. Cass, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I'm sorry if I'm interrupting people. It's kind of hard. It's weird. I'm watching it on the screen, but it's a delay, and so the words end on my phone sooner than on the screen. It gets a little confusing. Anyway, I'd just like to add on, in addition to what Ms. Franklin said about not voting, those who feel as though just because I'm not going to be on the school board next year, I shouldn't vote for this. Well, you're basically telling me that the last 8 months of my time on the board, I should just stay out of all votes because I'm not going to be anything that affects our schools for the coming year, I shouldn't vote on. And that's not why I've been on this board for the last 3.5 years. It's not why I ran for the board. And I'm going to continue voting on every item that comes in front of us until December 31st. So I just wanted to make that clear. And the other thing I wanted to make clear, and this is not about collective bargaining so much, but those who feel as though I'm feeling as though I'm considered to be a faithless person because I might not vote, because I might vote for collective bargaining, because I need to pray and make sure that I'm supporting our children. Well, I have prayed over this, and I've prayed to make the right decision. The decision I make will be one that I think supports our students the best. And I don't think it's fair that others make an assumption that because I might not agree with them, that we don't have the same beliefs. So I just wanted to clarify that for those out there. I have thought very hard about what I think is the right thing to do, and I've thought about it quite a bit over the last year that we've been talking about this. So that's all I wanted to say.
Shall I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
Thanks. Yeah, I've already stated my beliefs in terms of how I was intending to vote tonight. That certainly hasn't changed. And I was actually gonna, Sue kind of stole my thunder a little bit there, but you know, there were a lot of comments tonight about somehow if you supported collective bargaining, then somehow you were anti-religious or anti-Christian. I did pray about this, and I don't know why the two are mutually exclusive there. And so, I came to the conclusion that the best way to support our students is to support the folks who work the closest with them on a daily basis, right? That's the teachers. That's the school bus drivers. That's the cafeteria workers. That's everyone that works in our schools, right? Like most of us up here don't interact with the students on a daily basis. Most of the staff that come to our meetings don't, certainly not to the extent that our staff do in the schools. I'm sure we would all love to, but that's their job, right? Like they're working with those students on a daily basis. So to me, what's best for the students is to do what's best for our teachers, our bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and custodians, and to me, that's to support collective bargaining. So, thanks.
Anyone else?
Okay, so I've written down some of my comments so I don't go past my timely of 2 minutes that we have decided to try to maintain. First off, I'd like to applaud you, Glenn. You have stood up for your colleagues and for what you feel is best for your profession. I also want to give your wife kudos and your family. I know how hard it is to listen to negative things about the ones you love. That's tough. Compromise or roundtable discussion is never a bad thing. However, bargaining for your own personal work relationship in a private sector is very different than bargaining situations that affect staff, students, parents, and our community. I understand that Virginia has rules and regulations for collective bargaining. It wasn't until recently that it was allowed in Virginia. That tells me that the rules and regulations will also change as it becomes more accepted, as we saw in the 3-day strike closing schools in Los Angeles. We say that the final vote comes down to the board, but what will happen is if a board member votes against it, they will be accused of not supporting teachers or staff. Over the years, I've seen many changes: planning times, work days, pay raises, benefit packages, mental health and flex days, better technology, better facilities, just to name a few. I do believe we listen to the needs in our division, and when at all possible, we try to do the things that we hear are needed. And I don't just say so, I have voted consistently for those changes every time. I don't know of any profession that's perfect. Are we perfect? No, we're not. But like I said, I don't know of any of them that are. This last year, we've had multiple meetings concerning collective bargaining, along with our attorneys, with additional costs. I've spent time talking with staff, members of our community, members in my district. I've done my research, and realizing all the research that I've done does say that it does accumulate extra cost in spending. So with what my community has shared with me in my district, I don't know that I can support collective bargaining. I also want to just say that tonight I heard many speakers refer to it as a teachers' union. And whether it goes through or voted in or voted not, we need to remember it's a staff union, is what I thought, not just a teachers' union. It's for everyone. So, and we are elected on this board, not just to look out for teachers, but to look out for staff, students, parents, community members. Sometimes I think that those lines get clouded. Well, you're here to do this. No, we're not. We're here to do and look out for everyone. So whatever decision is made tonight, yes, I always support our staff, and I do vote for that when we need and when we have gotten needs. So, but thank you.
Go ahead, Dana.
Sorry about that. Kudos, Ms. Bond. I'm not going to be as eloquent as Ms. Bond tonight because I didn't have time to sit down and gather all my thoughts before the meeting. However, I have put some things down over the past close to a year. That's what I thought. So I went back, I pulled a lot of my research, and I spent a lot of time researching. I can assure you of that. And I do want to echo a couple of things Ms. Bond said at first. I'm probably going to go over my 3 minutes, Mr. Chewbacca. I'm just letting you know. Glenn, I do want to give you kudos for speaking out on what you believe and for standing up for what you believe in, as well as your wife. I want to thank all of you for everything you do every day. Ever since my daughter has started school at MCPS, and some of you teachers that she's had are out there tonight, I have done nothing but support you and had your back since my daughter has started school. I have volunteered, I have helped, I have chaperoned, and then I have been on this board for the last 8 years. So let me start by saying that because of a vote decision that I make tonight that might not agree with some of you, but does agree with some other ones that I've talked to, by no means at all means that I will not support you and continue to support you. Just like Ms. Bond has said, we vote. I have voted on everything for you. Everything you've wanted, we've voted for. I have voted yes. And I haven't seen anything that I've gone back and looked over that you've asked for that we have not, as a board collectively, voted to provide. So let me move on from that. So I'm going to read a quote, since there's been a lot of quotes here recently. This one is from Thomas Sowell. The biggest myth about labor unions is that unions are for the workers. Unions are for unions, just as corporations are for corporations and politicians are for politicians. So the biggest address I have with the collective bargaining, or one of the biggest one, is the cost. I know that this has been made a comment of, that there will be no cost. That's untrue. Part of that is due to the fact that I have just recently looked up and seen what other districts have been doing with collective bargaining. I am able to tell you this evening that Albemarle County initially rejected collective bargaining last year. They have since approved. The biggest issue was the cost. The county estimated that it would cost between $300,000 and $500,000 to negotiate a contract with the union. In Loudoun County, the staffing estimate was close to $1 million. What will be the cost to Montgomery County? If the Board of Supervisors does not give additional funds for this expense, then that means the money to pay for collective bargaining will be coming out of the classroom, and it will. I also want to state that I have references to this, so if anyone would like me to email them the links to this information, I'll be glad to do so. Just email me. Adopting collective bargaining also completely changes the relationship between the school board and the teachers from a collaborative one to an adversarial one. And once that change occurs, it will be ever hard to go back to being collaborative. I really have an issue with this due to the fact that it will widen the gap between Montgomery County Public Schools administration and employees. If nothing is possibly agreed upon in the situation that is being bargained for, it can aggravate instead of mitigate. This can definitely create barriers and not a healthy relationship. I don't want to hear from a sole or exclusive employee representative. I want to hear from all employees like we do now and we always have, where everyone has a seat at the table and can express their own thoughts, concerns, or feelings, even if they would not align with the representative. This would drastically limit our employees' individuality. Another reason to oppose collective bargaining is how it will directly affect our students. There will be time spent during working hours that should be focused on educating our students and not on collective bargaining. I'm not going to divulge too much into that. I've read the research, I've talked to lawyers, and I've even spoken to other colleagues at conferences, and they have only enlightened me that collective bargaining, while might work in the private sector, does not work in public education. Evidence continues to show that collective bargaining in public education has been a bad deal for students. It will do nothing more than guarantee a political fight, which I thought we were all trying to keep politics out of our schools. It is also a moot point, once again, since the school board does not have the authority to appropriate funds. That authority rests with the Board of Supervisors. I personally would not vote for that, just in consideration of the Board of Supervisors, as well as our county taxpayers who do not get a vote on this, but it will directly affect them. Money will still be an issue no matter what you are bargaining on. With that being said, I will be voting no to collective bargaining. I am a school board member, and my main priority is our students in their best interest. This would not be in their best interest. I am also a voice for my district and my community. The ones I have spoken with and that have shared their opinions with me have been against collective bargaining in our schools. Collective bargaining will move many discussions that are not currently out in the open with input from parents, teachers, taxpayers, and others to being behind closed doors. This is not good for transparency or accountability. So once again, please understand that just because I'm not agreeing with you on this particular issue does not mean I am not going to continue to support you and all you do and make sure you have what you need. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Parton. I did want to fill you guys in on just a couple of small things. I did have a short conversation with Brad this week on things, our attorney, about some of this and the changes that we voted to adopt last meeting. The law firm was fine with. I think they added some clarity on that second point. I think it was, hang on a sec, section 7B.4. That was the fail to represent for the purposes of collective bargaining any employee in the bargaining unit fairly. And they're okay with that, but he did point out, just I think to be complete on the legalese, that this is, this is an area that's new for the state of Virginia, and it does lack current case law, so there's always a kind of an off chance, a very small chance that, a judge somewhere down the road might interpret this differently, but aside from that, I think they were still okay moving forward. The other thing that had come up last time was the Section 1, paragraph B, I think, which is where we lay out the things that we are allowing bargaining over, those topics. I think there's 5 of them in there right now. And there were some questions, I think, among some board members at the last meeting about possibly adding one having to do with teaching or academics. I think there was also some question about, hours and scheduling from at least one, if not more, board members. But I think after talking with Brad about this, the long and the short of it is, I think if we're going to, the list that we have before us came recommended from our lawyers, and it's something that they've put together with, I guess, legal experience. So if we did want to add something else, I don't think it's something that we can just, for lack of a better word, willy-nilly just add it. I think it would be something that would probably go through another process and lengthen things. So I don't think that's something that it's not something I wanted to do at this point, and I assume that's not something that you guys want to do either, but I just wanted, for completeness, wanted to relay that information from our legal counsel. So having said that, I will be voting tonight to approve this resolution. And I think that for me, I do have, definitely there are some concerns. I mean, I think some of the concerns that Ms. Parton and Ms. Bond brought up are certainly valid concerns to some degree, but I think that as we weigh these different things, as I've weighed the pros and the cons, I think that this is new for everybody, and I think that one of the things that we're going to benefit from is just being one of the first counties in Southwest Virginia to do this. I think it is important to signal to our staff and our teachers that they are important to us and that we do listen to them and that we take action and that what they have to say leads us to make changes. And this is what I think is sorely missing. And I think that, yes, there will be some additional administrative costs. I think the way that our resolution is written, I haven't studied Albemarle's or anybody else's. I seriously doubt that it will cost us in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional administrative costs. And if it does, we'll cross that bridge later on how to make improvements. Nothing is carved in stone here. So I think, there isn't an outside union that's coming in to do anything here. The MCEA already exists. They are composed 100% of teachers that teach in our county. The very people that we're having trouble attracting and retaining. And so I doubt they're going to want to spend even more time going through giant headaches to get to agreements on things. And yes, the board still does carry the final say on a lot of things, including the final agreement, including if there's a disagreement on, on reaching an agreement. So anyway, I think that for me, I really do wish that we could have put something in here for teaching, for education, for academics, because that's the area, as one of our public speakers said, if curriculum was something they could talk about last time, some of the issues that we've had between the administration and our teachers on some of these curriculum adoptions maybe could have been avoided. And I think this one's pretty limited. I don't see a clear path here for doing that, and I do think it's something that we should actually pursue in the future. But yeah, I will happily be voting for this. I'm proud of our board for doing this. I'm proud of our community for supporting it, and for the teachers. And I just want to make it clear that for the groups that decide that they want to collectively bargain, it is up to the group. It is, if you are a teacher, no matter what faith you are, no matter your politics, it is up to you to vote with your collective group on whether or not you want to be part of this or not. And the majority will rule, of course, but then we're hearing from the majority. So I think this will be a great thing.
Mark?
For Montgomery County. Yeah, go ahead, Sue.
Can we go to a vote?
If no one else has anything else to say, that's exactly what we're going to do. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Seeing nothing else, Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
And just a reminder that the motion is to adopt the collective bargaining resolution as presented. Ms. Bond?
No.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
No.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
5 in favor, 2 opposed.
Motion carries. All right, on to the next agenda item. All right, let's please keep order. All right, the next agenda item is the Gifted Advisory Committee Annual Report. The Gifted Advisory Committee has shared their annual report for this year in the meeting agenda, and members of the committee are here to answer questions. Can we take a 1 minute break? Okay. I think so.
There's no presentation this evening, but there are members of the committee here if you have questions about the report.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just information.
Okay. But if there's any board members, is there anyone who has questions about the report? I think that I did, but sometimes it's hard to run the meeting and keep track of all my notes on this as well, so let me...
Is there like a highlight you might want to share or something? Like, can we get a highlight or something? Or are we only allowed to ask questions?
So there's a report in front of you, and I guess I'll start with the questions. And yes, if you guys are comfortable giving a summary, you can go ahead and do that before I ask my questions. You don't have to if you're not.
That's fine. We just weren't prepared for a presentation, so we were told we weren't doing one.
You don't have to.
Okay.
Do you want the 30-second hot take?
Yeah. Sure.
I'm Helen. I'm a gifted resource teacher and a member of the GAC and a parent, and I live in Blacksburg. And every year the gifted committee or the gifted department creates a goal for our staff. And this year our goal was professional learning and professional development. Throughout that year we set benchmarks and the GAC reviews them towards the end of the year and then gives us some feedback on how to move forward.
Yeah, so this year our annual report, like last year, followed what the gifted department was doing and just kind of keep looking at the progress we were making.
Okay.
I thought we did a good job.
You did.
So I had a question, I guess, in looking at the report under part 2, it looked like, the first page, it was a summary, and I just want to point out, since I have the opportunity, that you are continuing to ask, your number one ask basically is for the recovery of those GRT positions, which is something that's been on the table for a very long time. And I don't know that, I don't know that it's supposed to happen this year in the budget, but I think that it really needs to happen soon. But the other thing was the other ask that you guys had was the PD, correct? And then looking at the program goals and objectives, it looked like everything had been, that you already guys, I guess, had some PD under the goals and objectives, and those were fully implemented, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe there was one that wasn't. So is the one that wasn't, is that what you're asking for up top, I guess? Is there a relationship between those two things?
Is that the continued professional development for administrators?
So it was number 2, continue to offer targeted PD for teachers with clusters of gifted students and administrators throughout the school year, focusing on, and it had a list of things.
I got it. That does tie into reinstating some of our positions, and we're super grateful that you reinstated 0.5 of that. That's amazing, which allowed us to offer a position to someone. So we're excited to bring a new person on board. Not having enough GRTs prevents us from having enough time to meet with cluster teachers and offer professional development. So I think they're sort of tied together, that we will continue to offer professional development to the best of our ability. However, expanding our staff would just make that better.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all the questions I had. Anyone else? And this will come back to us for approval is it at the next meeting or?
This is a list of recommendations. There are no approval processes.
okay,
The
okay,
GAC
that's
is
right.
reporting to the school board.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Next is a presentation for graduate with a plan.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Bragan. I am excited to share tonight's presentation regarding one of the very special and unique programs I think we have here in Montgomery County, Graduate with a Plan. We operate under the philosophy of when students are young, we go ahead and begin to talk about commit to graduate. As they get a little bit older and get up into their high school years, we begin to focus on graduate with a plan, and that high school diploma is a great achievement, but we don't want it to stop there. We want them to graduate with us, accept their diploma, and already have the plans and the preparation for the next phase of their life. So tonight, I just share a little bit of the overview of the program with you and some of the statistics coming out of this year's class of 2023. And now that we are kind of getting into the home stretch and we're starting to plan graduations, let me just go ahead and say congratulations to the class of 2023. Once again, as part of our program, MCPS offers to pay for 2 college application fees for any graduating senior. That's through their school counseling department. Those students can also get assistance through many of the other employees in the school, such as their English teachers, to help with some of those college application resumes, or some of the essays that need to be written. And when they're ready to submit those 2 applications, they can go down to their school counselor's office, submit those, and have those paid for. We also ensure we understand and know that not all of our students will immediately proceed to an additional level of education or undergraduate study. So we want to be able to communicate and talk with those students as well, say, what is your plan? Maybe you're going to go directly into the workforce. Maybe you're going to go to a trade school. Maybe you're going to pursue the military. Maybe you're going to take a gap year. We want to communicate and talk with those students as well and make sure they have a plan for what comes after that diploma. So we also provide a class of 2023 t-shirt for all of our seniors. And the only requirement for that t-shirt is to say, what's your plan? What's your next step? And once we have that information, we give them that t-shirt to celebrate their achievement of high school and to celebrate their plan for the next step of their future. We've got a copy of the design there in the PowerPoint. You see the design that came to us from Eli Babcock, senior at Blacksburg High School in Ms. Showalter's Advertising Design 1 class. We get that same logo printed in all 4 of the high school colors. And board members, you also have one of those t-shirts available to you up there to wear with pride and celebrate with the class of 2023. Some of our data and demographics, thank you, Ms. Graham. Some of the data and demographics coming out of this year's class. We had a total of 715 seniors this year. Of that, we submitted 361 applications for 234 students. Remember, each student could do 2 if they would like. Some only chose to do 1, and some did not submit a college application. We spent $24,300 in fees. That comes out to roughly $67 or so as an average for a college application fee. We will note that that number has went up a little bit since the last couple years. It appears some of those fees are a little more expensive than they used to be. We also spent $4,300 some dollars for shirts. In all, the whole program has cost us about $28,616. There is a possibility that we would maybe have 1 or 2 more applications come in. We're prepared for that, but we think the bulk of that work is done at this late date. Additionally, when we look at some of this information, talking with our ACE program, the Access to Community College Education, the current data shows that we currently have 319 students from Montgomery County who have submitted an application to ACE. Again, it's important to remember that there's no college application fee for that, and I don't believe there's any college application fee for any of our community colleges throughout the Commonwealth. So those are also some other college applications that aren't reflected in any of these numbers. You do see how we break it down across the class of 2023 in terms of demographics. These numbers are all very close to where they've been the last several years. And again, those numbers, when we're not paying for the fees, don't necessarily reflect any of those ACE applications or any of those other college, community college applications. So once again, very, very proud of this class, very, very proud of our adults in the building who have been helping these students make their plans and make their arrangements for the next step of their lives once they complete their graduation with us later this spring. Are there any questions?
Any questions, board members?
Yep, I have a, yeah, I was very disappointed when I did see the demographic breakdown. Your explanation does help me a little bit. And then to hear that it's, this is staying about the same over the years. So how are we making sure we're communicating to students that this is available and how to go about the process?
It's communicated at the schools throughout the fall of the year. I will say that I feel the last several years it's kind of caught on. I think more people are aware, but we do that within the school. So a lot of morning announcements, a lot of across the display boards in the cafeteria, things like that. We also made it easier several years ago when we worked with finance to provide each school counseling office the credit card for their specific school. Instead of it being a specific date, you needed to, hey, today's our day to fill out these applications. It's available all through the fall. I do think we've got some room to grow in terms of some of the school messenger calls that we could possibly push out. And maybe in the fall when things seem so busy, also really making an effort to also include that in some of our social media because it is something that we offer that's very, very unique to Montgomery County. Other divisions do not have a program like this. The other piece we wanted to be sure to communicate several years ago when I first came into the position and we were doing the college application days, we felt like we had some students who felt like they needed to do an application to get the t-shirt or to, we also want to make sure that students really understand that this is really if you intend or really have some belief you're intending to go or be considered. And the example that I saw firsthand was a young man who I knew had already enlisted in the Marines. He already had his report date for basic training, but he's in the library kind of trying to bang out an application for school. And I'm saying to him, what are you doing? And he's like, this is what everybody else is doing. I want to get the t-shirt. Stop. We don't need to do that application. Just tell us you're going into the Marines. But I think, Ms. Franklin, you make a great point that in the fall, I need to really make an effort to remember to work with Ms. Drake to put it out in social media as well, to make sure it's really getting put out there, not just to students, but to parents.
Yeah, because you could have, and I'll just use myself as an example because they do this stuff at work. Well, we posted it, right? Well, I wasn't looking over there where you posted it, or unless you're having a conversation to help me understand exactly what the need is or what the opportunity is, I just may not get it. And I know, especially in the fall of the year, but if there's something that could be done in the spring to help the juniors understand, you're going to be a senior next year, this is a process you're going to be going through or maybe going through, and here's how Montgomery County can help you. Write it down, put it in their hands. I know they do the social media stuff and everything online, but sometimes if you put stuff in people's hands, they actually think, oh, okay, I'll read it. But yeah, this is a great program. And the ACE program may be stealing some of the thunder, which it's okay, right? But thank you.
Mr. Garrettson, at one time, did we not do that through their English classes?
We do. We did. And we still take some time during the English classes for the essays and the resumes. Again, what we're trying to avoid is a student feeling like they have an artificial deadline from us.
Sure.
Right? I need to get this done on Tuesday, when really if I just had till Friday, my application would be stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But we do still take some time in those classes, actually starting in the junior year, to work on resumes and essays that would be useful for most college applications.
Sure. Another concern I have is our ELL students. I know I've spoken to some families over the years that don't seem to get that information coming to them. So I know in our smaller high schools, our counselors are really good about making sure that those students get that. But in our bigger high schools, I'm a little more concerned.
Yes, ma'am. It's probably an area where we could always improve. I
Yeah.
think we've made some really good strides within the last couple of years of getting a lot of our written materials translated.
Right. Awesome.
So as we move to push forward in the spring of this year and in the fall of next year in terms of communicating, that's something that we can be sure gets
Okay.
translated.
Thank you.
I know this is a reach, but, freshman orientation, you got your parents with you. And that's probably the only time in the beginning of the school year that parents are with students. And it might be an opportunity to make that announcement. This is what we do. This is what we offer. I know 4 years is a long way off, but just to plant that seed of saying, when your student becomes a junior, just to let you know, this is the kind of things that they will be experiencing. I know some of the schools have actually had little fold-out things, and we've done different things like that, because I know my first child, I was completely in the dark. You don't have a clue what's out there, when you need to do it, how you need to do it. And there may be all kinds of information, but if you don't know where to get it, you don't know how to get it, and, your child's kind of going, don't you come up here. Don't you come into school. Don't you even act like you know me. I mean, you know what then sometimes it makes it a little difficult for a parent, but when they're there, we can say, as a freshman, these things are going to happen. As a sophomore, because they announce, hey, as a sophomore, it's when you get your class rings. So maybe we can say, we offer 2 applications per senior for college, entrance. We offer, or Montgomery County offers an ACE program, just to let you know, this is how this works. Put that on the back burner. So I don't know, just thought.
I think it's a great suggestion. Our freshmen may not remember, but I bet mom and dad will.
Mr. Garrettson, I can only speak to CHS because I've been through it. They've done a great job with keeping the parents informed, because I'm a first-time graduate student that has someone graduating, so I didn't have older siblings. So maybe we could put kind of like what Ms. Bond is speaking of into they send, basically when they send reminders out to the students for the student on the student emails, they kind of CC the parent emails and either say the same thing or say, hey, your student received an email today, Because I know sometimes she may have all the best intentions, but forget to check their email for a while or forget to tell me what's on an email. But that way, it's just a way to keep the parents informed. And maybe it might take some additional time as far as, sending out more correspondence, but maybe if we send out more correspondence, aligning the student correspondence with parents, that might help some as well. And that could be done through the schools individually.
Yes, ma'am.
So on the data that you're presenting on the slide here, is this pie chart represent the 715 seniors?
Yes, sir.
And is that, I'm assuming that's not, that represents?
No. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Let me correct that. That represents the 234 students who participated in the program. Does that make sense? Not every senior took us up on the opportunity.
So we have 715 seniors this year in our schools, and only 234 of them took us up on it.
Yes, sir.
Participated in the program.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
And to the tune of 361 applications. So some
Yes.
did both.
Yeah.
But many of the 234 only did one.
Sure. So I think it would be, this is up to you guys. As a single board member, I'm not trying to tell you guys what to do, but I think it would be helpful, and to piggyback a little bit on Ms. Franklin's concerns too. One is, of course, participation. We've been talking about ways to increase participation. I think that's good. I do think that there are, when we break out the demographic groups too, I don't know if maybe there's even other ways to look at this data, maybe socioeconomic, maybe, kids who, what do they call it when you're the first student in your family to go to college?
First generation.
Yeah, first generation, which is what I was, right? And it's interesting now going through the process with my daughter, who's a senior, and just, you kind of realize all the things. Oh yeah, my parents probably they just had no clue about this or that or the other. So I think there are, I think one thing that would be beneficial for me, and I guess I won't be on the board next year, but, when we look at these demographic groups and stuff, what is the percentage of white students, black students, Asian students, Hispanics? Or, which groups are overrepresented, which groups are underrepresented in participation in the program? And that might help steer our efforts into getting a more, representative, I guess, distribution of kids who are participating, so.
I have a quick data question. The 319 ACE applications, where does the 234 students that participated factor into that?
There could be duplicates.
Okay.
Since there's no application fee,
Right.
we really don't have control, like those
A
numbers.
tracking
Right, those
mechanism.
numbers are being provided to me by the community college.
Got it.
And so we don't know
So there
how
could be
many
some
of them are
overlap.
duplicates.
Could be some overlap. There could be no overlap.
Sure.
Yeah.
There would have to be some. There would have to be some overlap.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is also reasonable to say, of our 361 who participated in the program, there's
234.
another number,
234.
234 students, yes ma'am. Of our 234, there's additional additions to that who are just participating with ACE. They know that's the program they want. They know that's what they're going to do, and they went ahead and submitted that application.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Could it be not two, because don't we allow two applications? So could it be that some students just choose to do two applications and some chose to do one?
That's 100% accurate.
Yeah, I mean,
Some
instead of
did
doing
one,
two,
some did
everybody,
two.
right?
And some who know that their plan is community college, we don't pay for any of those.
That's right.
All right, anything else, board members?
Thank you for helping students understand, just because you might not have a plan that fits into this pie chart, we want you to have a T-shirt. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. Garrison. Next, we have the Perkins Grant presentation for strengthening CTE.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Chewbacca. Every time the federal government reappropriates the money, they change the name just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it does get different. So it is that time of year again where we're filling out the Perkins application. As a reminder, this is a federal grant that's funneled through the Virginia Department of Education. It's a formula-based grant. It is based on only two factors: the number of students who are aged 5 to 17 who live in Montgomery County, whether they're MCPS students, homeschool students. It's just based on population from the census, and then also a poverty calculation that changes every 2 years when the state redoes their index for the amount of money that the county is expected to pay. So it did change just a little bit. Like a lot of our funding last year, we went from 174,000 to 170,000. So a small tweak down 4,000. We're still up significantly over the last 5 years. The amount of money for next year has not officially been released, which is pretty typical. Usually they'll release that towards the end of April. The deadline is the last Friday in April, which I believe this year is the 30th. The structure of the funding continues to be the same. We are budgeting, or we are proposing in the grant $113,744.37 for purchasing equipment, which is generally the most expensive part of running our career and technical education programs. $37,000 for continued professional development activities for CTE teachers and school counselors. This is particularly important for our CTE teachers because when it comes to professional development, it can be really hard to find professional development for teachers because their areas are so specialized. We've done presentations on drones and pharmacy tech, and if I have to come up with PD for those two, I'm going to be in trouble. So certainly much easier when we can pay for them to get together on a statewide basis. And then $20,000 for purchasing industry certification tests for students, which are great when they go out to prove the knowledge that they've learned in their classes, apply for jobs, and it also helps to meet graduation requirements. Are there any questions about this application? This is a first reading. I'll be back on the 18th for approval.
So the application's like 53 pages, right?
Yeah, it's extensive. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. I'm not even going to lie to you and say that I read it all, but
luckily they don't change that quite as much as they do the budget from year to year.
But that's what we will be approving next
Correct.
time? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Everybody good? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is updates to sexual abuse policy. Do I have a motion to, well, I guess maybe I should first ask if I should be making a motion. Well, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the updates to the policy because that's what's in our agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, or is there anything you guys want to update us on? The reason I'm bringing this up is I asked some questions earlier today that I didn't notice until today after a parent pointed out something in at least one of the paragraphs, and then I started digging into some of the language that hadn't changed and came up with some questions. So I don't know if you guys want to touch on that first.
Certainly, and I appreciate those questions. The first thing that I need to say is we do need this policy to be approved because this is the most updated language that needs to be in our policy. The second thing that I need to say is due to your questions, I discovered a gross error on my part, and I need to confess that error tonight in my presentation to you from the last board meeting. We actually have two policies. The policy that I've presented to you, I presented as one for everyone, students, staff, everybody, and that is not accurate. The policy that I presented to you was the policy from our personnel section. So this policy applies, the policy that I'm asking for your approval applies to our staff. The policy that applies to our students is policy 7-1.1, and that is the equal educational opportunities. In that policy is the language for the sexual harassment. It's almost exactly the same policy as what we have for personnel, but written for students. And that policy does include sexual violence. I apologize for my error. I've got to be quite honest. I've never had to deal with a student issue on sexual harassment that rises to the level of Title IX, and therefore I really didn't know about that policy. So that is my fault, and I apologize for that. It is approved and it is up to date.
The other thing that I will mention, the rules are changing on these policies again, so probably within the next 6 months, we'll be changing both of those policies.
So when was the last time we approved for the students?
The last time we approved for the students was, really, it was May 4th, 2021, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, so then, I'm sorry, I'm just reviewing it now with this new information, and I think it still holds, right? I don't think we need to make any edits on it.
And there was one question, I'm sorry, I didn't respond to. You asked last time about electronic communication.
Yes.
And I did talk with our lawyers, and it definitely, these policies do apply. Both of these would apply to electronic communications.
Without
Without it having to be
explicitly saying it.
Correct, correct.
So I guess so if I understand correctly, this policy applies to staff. Therefore, this would apply to, any kind of harassment or abuse from a staff member to a student, or from a staff member to a staff member, or from a staff member to a parent or a visitor or anyone else. Is that correct? Okay. So in that case, with that in mind, what about that last sentence on paragraph 1 where it says, this policy and the complaint procedures outlined herein shall apply to complaints of sexual abuse committed by a teacher upon a student? Should that say, I mean, I almost feel like the next paragraph kind of covers what we were talking about, and I'm just wondering if that should either be struck or if it should just be clarified to just say committed by a teacher, period.
According to our lawyers, it is accurate and should be in there.
Okay. All right. All right. And then, sorry, go ahead if you had questions.
There's just something about the policy that, for me, doesn't feel whole, even though I asked the question before. When we have students who are being harassed or bullied because of an incident that happened outside of school. And I know reporting and whatever, but there's just a little bit more meat, something that, I don't know.
With Title IX being a federal mandate, we are pretty bound, we are bound to follow the federal guidelines. And this policy reflects the current federal guidelines for Title IX.
That doesn't mean they always get it right either.
No, ma'am, I agree with you, but
okay.
Where did, as I was reviewing all the markups, and I mean, there's quite a large section starting on page 6 under Title IX, right? Where, is that language that was picked up from our lawyers? Is that federal language? Is that the language in the federal?
that is all of the newer federal language that needed to be there.
Great, thank you.
I'm lost.
Okay. All right, board members, any other questions or comments? All right, Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass? Ms. Parton?
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute. Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Trabaka?
Yes,
7 in favor.
motion carries. All right, our next item, you're not going anywhere?
I'm up here for a
is,
little while.
Staffing update?
So I'd like to explain the new format here. Dr. Widener shared with me that we were requested to leave the old data in and add new data. So I have done that in this most recent presentation. And you can see here the location and date for the vacancy. And then back on March 7th, and then you can also see the location and date as of today. And the data in here is reflective of what we have as of today. So you can see we still have quite a few positions. I didn't put numbers in there because I thought that might be confusing, but what I did do from the
first date to the second date is update the locations as to where they are, because in some cases, we've had people resign, but we've filled positions, and a school may now be completely staffed in that particular position, but another school now needs someone in that position. So you can see here the positions that we have vacant, and all of these are currently either in the hiring process or accepting applications at this time. On this page, we move more into our facility, our classified employees. And you also will see here, and that's I did notice one mistake there. The very last position, vehicle mechanic, we have filled that position, so we're not currently in the hiring process anymore. I apologize for that. You can see with bus aides and with bus drivers, I did put some numbers in there just because it's one location and there's multiple vacancies there. Again, we continue into our classified employees with our aides and all the way through to special education aides. And we are currently accepting applications, and our principals are screening for the positions that they have vacant at this time. We did fill the one clerical position at EMES. I will note that we did have a position name change. You'll see carpenter there. We've also added locksmith to that position, so carpenter class / locksmith. We are still working to try to fill that position. We're hopeful, but we're hopeful we may find a locksmith that can do carpenter work too. Thank you. One of the things I'd like to point out with our custodians, you'll see we did go from 12.5 down to 11 vacancies with our custodians, and we do have some in the hiring process. We met with several custodians, Robbie Jones, Dr. Widener, and I, and talked about what is it that they thought. We asked them what they thought would help us. And so we're trying to put some of their suggestions into action. We're actually right now piloting a shift in the evening shift work, where instead of starting at the end of the school day, we've got one employee that works the night shift coming in around 12:30 in the afternoon. And then they're able to go home earlier in the evening because they worked their shift and completed earlier. We're piloting it with one employee a week and rotating who is able to do that from the evening shift to gather feedback from them on how did it go. We want to know, do we think we can provide clean schools by doing that? We know it will be beneficial for our employees because they're going to get home earlier. So that's one of the things that came from talking with the other custodians. Another piece that they talked about was feeling like part of the team, feeling like part of the school. So Dr. Widener and I are working with our administrators to make sure that our administrators are thoughtful and working to ensure that all of the employees within the building are feeling like part of the team. Sometimes it can be something very little that makes that happen. Other times it needs to be a little bit more. So we're going to provide examples of things that our principals need to do to help with that. And then they also suggested, the third item that they suggested was potentially providing a referral bonus to our custodians if they referred somebody who then came to work for us. So that's a money issue, and we're in the middle of budget time right now. So we're exploring that, see what that might look like and whether or not we could fund that. We don't know how much it would be, but we'll certainly take a look at it and see if it can be worked out, we'll see if that helps as well. I will. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for pointing that out. I meant to point that out to help identify what to look for on this. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions on this one, this slide? I'm happy to report that we are pretty much maintaining our sub-fill rate since winter break, since January, and I will continue to report this so that you can see the trend. We did go down less than 0.5% with our teachers this month, the month of March, from the January to February timeframe. And our aides went down a percentage point, but for this time of year, that's pretty good. We had a 93% fill rate today, which the week of a holiday when lots of people take these days off is a really good fill rate for our teachers. So we were happy with that today.
Our pre-COVID average was what, like 90?
Right around 92 to 94.
90, yeah, okay, so we're kind of back there.
Kind of back there.
What's that average for, what's the pre-COVID average for AIDS? Do you know?
It was less than that. I know it was less than that because we have not had good fill rates since pre-COVID, but we weren't really tracking that as much as we are now.
What's the numbers that we're looking at here on AIDS, like in a given day? I mean,
Anywhere.
is it 4 positions, and so you're missing 2, or is it like 10 positions?
It's anywhere from, I would say, 16 to 30 positions total vacancies that we have.
Every day?
Every day. And then, like today it was 50%, and I think we had 18, and we had 9 that were filled, I believe, today.
Do we need to consider doing kind of like what we did with the subs, something where we hire 1 or 2 full-time aides to be roaming or to fill in? No, I mean, it's just a
So right
question.
now, our designated sub could fill in for an aide.
Okay.
If they weren't filling in for someone else. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's up to the administration there to place them.
Thanks for the creative shift, because that's hopefully will have a huge impact. And once we get some more money, that's going to have a bigger impact. So I have talked to Dr. Whitaker about this, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. We have a problem along the Huckleberry Trail that goes through one of our campuses that people are using it for their dog poop. And then our custodians have to go out and empty those. And maybe some neighborhood folks too. We are not the dog poop disposal place. So people need to be considerate about what they're doing, and the town maybe help out with putting some things up for them to use in the proper manner, not our trash cans. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Knott. All right, next on the agenda is 23-24 calendar revisions.
So as you heard from Dr. Bragan earlier, he went to the meeting and came back, and we talked, and he charged Dr. Whitaker and I to come up with a plan, a potential calendar for next year. The calendar that you have in the board agenda does take us from 172, 73 days to 178 days. We're 2 days short of 180. We still start the third Wednesday of August, as the board requested last year. We have reduced our PD/work days during the school year, not before or after, but during the school year to 4. And we did that by looking at what else was taking place in that month. So for example, the month of September, we don't have a PD/work day there because we have Labor Day off at that month. October, we do have the 27th off as a PD day. We also added an early release day on the 26th because Virginia Tech plays Syracuse that night here at Lane Stadium. So that'll be a day we need to leave school early. We also kept the same holidays, so the winter break, spring break, Thanksgiving break are all the same. We didn't shorten any of those. And by doing all of that, we only added 2 days at the very end of the year. So our last day of school is May 24th instead of May 22nd. So that's the highlights.
Okay. So, if I'm remembering correctly, the reason why our 180 days may have been shortened was because of snow days and being caught up with that several years ago. And we added minutes to the day because it was, you can calculate by minutes or by days. And then just a few years ago, we decided to calculate everything by minutes and not by days. So that's how we got to the 173 days and not the 180. We're still in school by the minute requirement, but that adjusts for the days.
The state requires us to have either a 990-hour calendar or 180 days.
Right.
With the length of time that our students are in school and in class, you can't count lunch. 165 days would be 990 hours. So when we built the schedule that we are using this year, 2 years ago, when we built that, we added extra days so that we had some bank time in case there were early releases or delayed openings due to weather. Also with the state, we have to make up the first 5 snow days if we don't have the bank time for that. We don't have to make up the second 5 days. We have to make up the third 5 days. We don't have to make up the fourth 5 days. And then at that point, it's over with. They don't require you to make up any more time.
And then some days.
And we also do have the ability to assign virtual learning days to our students, and we can have up to 10 of those.
Right. So I'm not sure what the problem is other than it's not 180 days, but we are meeting the minutes requirement, right?
It's the hours requirement.
Or
Yes, ma'am.
hours.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
hours, yeah.
We are meeting the hours requirement, but this is the first year that we have done the 990-hour calendar. Prior to this year, we always had 180 days in the calendar.
And still had extra hours, sorry.
Had bank time, yes, ma'am. And that's because of the length of time we go to school. We go to school longer than what the state requires in a day.
Right, and that's, again, what was built in so that we didn't get stuck like we did several years ago. And then the previous administrator brought it to us saying, let's choose one way or the other. And we chose the hours.
That's correct.
Right, so.
My thought on that, and again, I wasn't here for any of that, so I don't know. Our school, again, I come from a whole nother state, so maybe things are totally different. But the state requirements are minimums, as well as with the hours, and our days are not significantly longer than other divisions, and we simply don't have enough time to get it done for our kids. And y'all pay me to advocate for the children. They need more time. We need more time. We need more instructional time. As far as I'm concerned, Montgomery County Public Schools, we don't just do the minimum, right? Y'all pay me to expect to do higher. When the gentleman said we were 10th in the state, I'm not happy about that. We should be first in the state. So those are the reasons why I asked our team to put this together. And I think it's important. I think our children need it. I think our test scores indicated they need it. And this is not a knock against anybody. They don't have, the single greatest indicator for performance on any task is the amount of time you spend on it, in any of us, in my poor golf game and anything else that we do. So I think we need more time. Y'all pay me to do that. I'm advocating for that. I asked our team to put it together. Well, you're the board. You vote on it. Not tonight, though, just discussion.
Right. And I'm not arguing with you, just giving the history of why we were at where we're at. and not the 180 days.
I appreciate it, Ms. Franklin, and I didn't think you were arguing. I didn't get that sense.
Good, because you haven't gotten one yet.
And
Hopefully we won't.
I'm sure I'll know when that happens.
well, and I'm going to agree with Dr. Bragan because the parents that I've spoke to definitely agree with that. And I know when we added in the extra 4 work days, we kind of said, right now, this is needed, but we'll reevaluate. And I think, okay, we gave it, but now we've got to reevaluate. And when something doesn't work, you fix it. And students need that. That's what we're here for. And, you know, it affects everybody. Every time we're out of school, it doesn't just affect our staff. It affects the community as a whole. It affects everyone. And I couldn't tell you the number of children that are getting letters saying, you got to go to summer school, because they just can't get it, especially our students that COVID hit when they were in kindergarten. They just didn't get those basics that, and as we said, it's nobody's fault. It just happened. And, but we need to work on it.
So I'm just going to echo Dr. Bragan and Ms. Bond. I'm always going to be an advocate for as much time in the classroom as a student can get, because that's what they deserve, okay? And with COVID, the learning loss is monumental. That's something that we are going to be taking years and years and years, and we need to get started now. So the more time they can be in the classroom with our wonderful teachers, that's what we need to provide. And if there's other things that the teachers are having issues with as far as needing to get done, I'm open to listening to how we can help them work with that, and I'm sure our administration will help with that as well. But for right now, our kids need to be in the classroom as much as possible.
I mean, I guess I would add, I don't necessarily disagree with that, you know, certainly in terms of the instructional time, but I gotta tell you, like, our kids right now are burnt out. I know mine are. It's been a long year because we don't apparently get snow around here anymore. I don't know what's going on, right? It ain't been a snow day.
We're missing some snow.
Yeah,
days.
we've had a couple of late openings, but that's about it.
We're getting ready to have a long spring break. They'll be all right.
Well, I mean, that was going to be my point, right? Like, you know, and, you know, like we're cracking open the hornet's nest here, but, you know, I'm looking around at surrounding counties that have an actual week-long spring break in addition to time off around Easter. So I'm not interested in more time in the classroom unless we also spend some time giving our kids and teachers a break to support that extra time around the classroom. Other counties around us are doing it. I got Radford, Botetourt, frickin' Pulaski, and who the heck is this right here? Radford City. All of them do that. So
Radford's also going to school 2 weeks later than we are too. They don't graduate 2 weeks after we do. So they're already in the classroom more. That might be why they're getting more breaks.
sure. So I mean, it's that time in the middle, right? Especially now when people are getting wore out. You want them more in the classroom and they're able to focus less, right? I mean, I'm not sure you're going to get the value added out of that. So I don't disagree. I think we just need to look at it holistically, right?
Well, keep in mind too, though, every time we do that, most of those students don't have parents that are educators. They have parents that don't get any kind of time off like that. And we already have issues with daycare in our community. And I'm not saying any school should be looked at as a daycare, but when your children are in school, that is something that you plan for. And most parents can't take their children to work. And so we run into a whole issue, and that's where my concern lies a little bit. And we did try a week-long spring break. And if I remember right, it was terrible. Everybody hated it. So I know there are some on the board that didn't mind it, but back then it was changed quickly because nobody liked it. You know, it was at a time when, like I said, no other parents have that kind of time off. So it didn't benefit anybody unless your parent happened to be someone that was on spring break at Tech or an educator. So I think when we talk about things like that, You've got to take in allowance for everything. And yes, it is about, and I sat down when we were looking at days off, and I think, if I'm not correct, there's only 2 months of the year that there's not some form of day off, not maybe a work day, but whether it's a holiday or a work day or something. There's only 2 months that we go a full 4 weeks.
I mean, I never said anything about anything associated with universities. I'm just saying that without looking hard, I found 4 nearby counties that do this, and they're all southwestern Virginia counties, so I'm sure they got working folks too. I've been in this county for 10 years. We've never been able to go anywhere for spring break because spring break's always been around Easter, and we want to be at our church for Easter. So we can't go anywhere. And I know I've heard from many folks who've had that same issue, right? Like they want to be at their home church, but we sandwich our spring break around the one time where people want to be home, so.
I'm not sure who was on the board, but I think the board voted that to be around Easter because I think other people had time off around that time. I
believe that was one of the parameters.
I think it always fell because we don't do it a full week and it falls over a weekend with the way we do it. I think we have always made that time around the Easter break because we used to get Good Friday off, and then we didn't get Good Friday off anymore because it was pulled as a federal holiday. So I think people were used to that, and we were trying to kind of encompass people still being able to have that day off with that. That's kind of what I remember. It's been a
what I
good while.
remember, because I've served on the calendar committee 3 times, and what I remember people telling me was that it was, I can't remember if it was, don't quote me on the Thursday. I don't know if Thursday was given or not, but I know we used to get the Friday off, and then at some point, some parents came and petitioned the board to give them Monday off too, because some people, I guess, or maybe at that time, those people wanted to travel for Easter. And so that's kind of why we've fallen into this. But I will also say that, in serving on the calendar committee, I'm kind of surprised that certainly a lot of the teachers and educators that have been on the calendar committee have expressed concern about how we're doing that spring break and how it's growing. And I mean, I will probably, I'm sorry? Yes, because it's gone from 2 days to 3 days and then 3.5. And I think the feedback that I've certainly gotten and that I have passed on is that we should not be lengthening that break for various reasons. I don't want to get too deep. I mean, we can, but I'm trying not to get too deep into this conversation again about the calendar. But I was very against adding one of the teacher work days on top of this break. I mean, we're at a point now where it doesn't, I think it would make a lot more sense. And one of the things I was hearing from so one of the things I have a problem with doing this type of thing anyway is when you do it without a committee, and certainly if you do it without a committee, you're not getting all the input, and sometimes I understand that we have to do that, and that's what we did when we added these days in the first time. And I agree with you guys that, pulling some of those out is maybe not a bad idea, and I think I can probably meet Dr. Bragan halfway on this one. But I would certainly, I'm glad we have a little bit of time before we vote, because I think that the complaint that I heard from teachers is about that burnout and about not having, those stretches when you have just, a whole month or whatever where you don't get any break. And I'm just saying, we're giving it to them. We're giving it to them on the 2nd of April right now. Why can't that one be moved? You got like how many? I don't know how many weeks with not a. Why can't that one be moved to the beginning of March or towards the middle or end of April? I think there are problems. I've said this before. Our number 1 employer in this county, and I don't know where Radford University falls. There is a not a majority, but a plurality. When we did the surveys, about 32, 33% of the people preferred the spring break to align with the universities. So, and I agree with you that I wasn't here for when we had a week-long spring break, but I can tell from looking at the survey data that if you tried to do a week-long spring break at just about any time, it's probably going to be problematic in this county. I mean, that's the conclusion I came to a long time ago. But right now, we've got a spring break that's 4 days long. It's 1 day short of being a week, but it straddles a weekend. I mean, if we're going to muck with the calendar, let's fix that one at least a little bit, and also fix what those teacher workdays were supposed to fix to begin with, which is to spread out some of those extra workdays throughout the year.
Well, and if I remember right, the conversation, one of the reasons we tacked it on to Easter was because some of the parents are off that time, and it gives a better opportunity to have kids taken care of. Because again, not very few people. As a business, it's horrible. I'm just going to tell you right now, because you lose everybody. I mean, and it's no wonder businesses can't stay open because they don't have anybody to work. And, I get it, but it affects the whole community. It doesn't just affect, so you've got to kind of piggyback days on times when you have that opportunity to have parents home with children so they're not by themselves. And because we just don't have a lot of daycare in this area. We just don't. And
I don't think there's no one, at this point, I don't know of any businesses that are now closed for Good Friday because it's not a federal holiday any longer. And I think part of the problem, Mark, that I remember us discussing also is that when Easter falls in April, it can be very difficult because of SOLs. And you're taking SOLs, AP exams, the end of April, early May, and it's hard when the students are out for a bunch of days, and then you come back and you're immediately into, prepping for that. And so I do remember us talking about the difficulty of having it around Easter, especially when Easter falls in, late March, early April, or mid-April. I mean, you had one year it was pretty late.
Oh, and I agree, Sue. I wasn't meaning that Good Friday was a holiday anymore. I just was meaning that employees have to take off, when we have so many days off for the schools.
Right,
and it hurts the businesses because you've got to have your employees.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to add to that? Anybody from Dr. Bragan or Mr. Knott?
Calendar is actually worse than budget, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hang on, give me just a second. There we go. All right, so I think we are done with our business meeting. Next up is unfinished business. I don't believe we have any items of unfinished business. I think under, so I think I'll open up for new business here in a sec. I just wanted to mention that in the April 18th meeting, we are planning to have the discussion on, I believe, on the athletic fields and maintenance and standardizing who pays for what. So that is, I know we've talked about that before. That's coming. That's supposed to be on the agenda for the 18th. So, all right. Are there any other items of new business, board members? We're now on new business.
That is our board retreat. Last year just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed until it really was a burden on folks to try to help plan and find location. Typically, we had been doing that in June. So we need to get this on the calendar.
You want us to send out possible dates for all of you and see your availability? June?
I make a motion we have it in the same place we had it the last time.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do not. go back to that mountain. Need you to take me. I don't want to go. Yeah. Oh, no, just old and
All right.
And there's no water.
All right. Any other items of new business, board members? All right. Any items of, any announcements or items of information?
I was reading our letter that we had about Harding Avenue being 50 years this year, and I do want to say congratulations. I appreciate the invite, but I do work on Saturdays. We get so many invitations for early evenings and Saturday mornings, and, you know, it would be great to be able to come to all of them, but my profession allows late hours and Saturdays. So, but thank you for the invite, and if anyone talks to anyone from Harding Avenue, please extend their congratulations for me. Thank you.
I have some.
Go ahead, Sue.
Okay. So I'm going to have to apologize because I can't remember the student's last name. But last week, Linwood and I went over to Blacksburg Middle School. An 8th grader there, Eli, and I'm sorry, Eli, I forgot your last name. But Eli is going to the National Spelling Bee, the Scripps Spelling Bee. He won regional spelling bee and is moving on to the big national bee that's actually televised. So we went over and they his mom had found out about it, and so a bunch of people went into the library and he got called into the library and we surprised him with telling him the big news. So that was really fun to do, and just thought I'd share that.
Awesome. That was Eli Simondsda?
Yeah, Eli.
Thank you.
Got it.
I couldn't remember, and I couldn't look it up. So
Great. I did have an announcement as well. Been sitting on this for a little bit because I didn't want to get out ahead of their own communications, but the Southwest Virginia Governor's School has a new home now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had a very involved, energetic meeting back in February with a lot of student community participation. And we had presentations from 3 outstanding facilities, Whitfield Community College, New River Community College in Dublin, and Radford University. And after a lot of discussion and debate, we voted to move the governor's school to the New River Community College in Dublin.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a great facility. It makes the most sense geographically. It's very close to the current facility, so it didn't really impact transportation very much, which was an important consideration. So they are getting wrapped up with the current school year, and then they're going to be packing and getting ready to move.
Okay.
So that's very exciting.
Nice. Cool. And board, I received an invitation, I guess, for everybody here to, if we want to attend the Bruin Beginnings preschool graduation celebration. So make sure to check that out on your way out. A preschool graduation for Blacksburg High School preschool program. So, okay. All right. Agenda prep is in the agenda. You can see the upcoming board meetings that we have there. And we will now enter into closed session to discuss personnel and student matters. So do I have a motion to enter into closed session as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia to discuss 1 personnel matter and 1 student matter?
So moved.
A motion and a second. Ms. Drake, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. We are now in closed session.
Ms. Drake, do I get cut off here? Is this where I go?
We're going to have somebody call you from the closed session room.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, there's an extra piece because Sue's
I might steal Sue's.
Yeah, well, I still have some extra if you want some.